Welcome to the News Hour. An extraordinary scene in the Oval Office today as President Donald Trump made a public break with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
The two presidents, as well as Vice President Vance, argued for nearly 5 minutes with the cameras rolling, a spectacle that could have profound effects on Ukraine and the U.S. relationship with Europe. Here's Nick Schifrin.
In the Oval Office today, an unprecedented, unmitigated train wreck.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
What follows is the majority of the war of words over a country at war, beginning with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy doubting any diplomacy with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
He broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the
the
cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you, far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble. We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
I can tell
You're
again,
running low on soldiers. Listen, it's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change. Your people are very brave, but you're either going to make a deal or we're out.
And that's exactly what President Trump did. After the meeting, he wrote on Truth Social, "I've determined that President Zelenskyy is not ready for peace if America is involved. He disrespected the United States of America in its cherished Oval Office. He can come back when he's ready for peace." Zelenskyy and the Ukrainian delegation left without the economic deal that he came here to sign. Moscow responded with glee. Former Russian president and deputy chair of the Security Council Dmitry Medvedev tweeted, "The insolent pig finally got a proper slapdown in the Oval Office, and Donald Trump is right. The Kyiv regime is gambling with World War III." For weeks, European leaders have been trying to prevent a U.S.-Ukraine break. This week, they thought they made progress, with Trump suggesting just yesterday Ukraine could gain back occupied territory.
And we're going to see if we can get it back or get a lot of it back for Ukraine, if that's possible.
But what a difference a day makes.
You're not acting at all thankful, and that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
Today, Europe rallied to Zelensky's defense. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen wrote, "Your dignity honors the bravery of the Ukrainian people." The European Union's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, wrote, "Today it became clear that the free world needs a new leader. It's up to us, Europeans, to take this challenge." And French President Emmanuel Macron.
We have to thank all those who have helped and respect all those who, from the beginning, have done the fighting, because they're fighting for their dignity, their independence, for their children, and for the security of Europe.
What I think? Complete, utter disaster.
But back at the White House, Trump and Ukraine ally South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham said diplomacy with Zelenskyy was all but dead.
I talked to Zelenskyy this morning. Don't take the bait. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again.
In the last hour, President Trump repeated that message, saying that Zelenskyy wanted to come back to the White House tonight, but that the president was leaving for Mar-a-Lago. And the president also said that in order to restart U.S.-Ukrainian talks, Zelenskyy would have to say, quote, "I want to make peace. I don't want to fight a war any longer." That is not something, Jeff, he's been willing to say, and right now it's not clear how or if U.S. support for Ukraine will continue.
Well, Nick, beyond their public comments, what are European leaders telling you about how they're viewing all of this?
Multiple officials told me tonight that this feels like a fundamental transatlantic break. As we just reported, all of them came to Zelenskyy's defense tonight, and today's meeting came after Vance and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth traveled to Europe in the last few weeks and made it clear that it was not the Trump administration's priority to defend Europe. So the incoming German chancellor is saying that Europe needs strategic independence from the U.S., and a senior European official tells me tonight that over the next week, Europe will, one, drop its own security guarantees for Ukraine and send more financing and equipment to Ukraine directly. Jeff, European officials have said this in the past, but they seem to mean it more than ever. But we know that nothing can replace U.S. military support for Ukraine.
Nick Schifrin at the White House for us tonight. Nick, thank you.